What if I told you that the way you've been eating eggs could silently raise your risk of heart attacks, infections, or even memory loss? In the next few minutes, I'll show you 5 mistakes that turn eggs from medicine into poison and how to fix them before it's too late. When you think of healthy foods, what comes to mind first? For many people, it's eggs. They're often celebrated as a powerhouse of protein and nutrients, a food that has fed generations and carried the label of simple but strong. But here's the surprising truth. Eggs can be either medicine or poison, depending on how you eat them. And for those of us in our 50s, 60s, and beyond, the difference can literally shape the quality of our later years. I've spent decades learning and teaching about nutrition and aging, and in today's video on the Elder's Guide, I want to bring you a truth I wish more seniors knew earlier. It's not just about whether you eat eggs, it's about how you eat them, when you eat them, and even what you eat them with. If you've been eating eggs for your health, but find yourself wondering why you don't actually feel better, this story might be exactly what you need. Let me take you into a real story from my practice. Imagine a man named John Smith from Chicago. For 40 years, he started his mornings with soft-boiled eggs. It was his ritual. He believed that because eggs are healthy, eating them every day could only be a good thing. But at the age of 83, he landed in the hospital with salmonella poisoning. What went wrong? It wasn't the eggs themselves, it was the way he had been eating them. His immune system had grown weaker with age, and something that seemed harmless in his younger years had now become a genuine threat. That habit, unchanged for decades, almost cost him his life. And then there's Mary Johnson, an 86-year-old woman from Kansas. She was exhausted from taking multiple medications for cholesterol and heart problems. Like many people, she believed fried eggs were the perfect breakfast. For years, she fried them in oil, ate them first thing in the morning, and swallowed her medications right alongside. Yet her cholesterol numbers never improved, and her fatigue kept dragging her down. When she came to me for help, the first thing I asked about wasn't just her prescriptions, I asked about how she ate her eggs. And once she changed her method, the results were astonishing. Within 3 months, her cholesterol dropped by nearly 30%, and 6 months later, her energy had returned. The only thing she adjusted was how she cooked and timed her eggs. Stories like John's and Mary's carry an important lesson. Eggs are not simply good or bad. They're complex, containing proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals that interact with our bodies differently as we age. In youth, your body can tolerate more mistakes, but in your later years, what once felt safe may quietly be working against you. This is why I say again and again, the way you eat eggs matters. And if you're in your 50s, 60s, or older, it matters more than ever. Think about your own habits for a moment. Do you eat eggs daily? Do you enjoy them soft-boiled, fried in oil, or maybe just the whites because you've heard yolks are dangerous for cholesterol? If you've ever wondered why you're not seeing the benefits you expected or worse, why your health is declining despite your healthy routine, you're not alone. I've seen it in countless patients over the years, and that's why today, I want to guide you through the 5 most common mistakes people make when eating eggs in later life. Avoid these, and eggs will truly become the superfood they're meant to be. But before we dive into that list, let me emphasize something. These are not abstract theories. These are patterns I've seen repeated in real lives. These are lessons drawn from thousands of seniors, each with their own struggles, successes, and setbacks. And if you stay with me until the end, you'll not only understand what to avoid, but you'll also walk away with practical, everyday strategies you can start applying immediately. Because my goal here isn't just to teach you nutrition science, it's to help you live longer, stronger, and healthier with simple but powerful choices. So let's get started. The first mistake is one I see far too often. It's the habit of eating only the egg whites and tossing out the yolks, usually on an empty stomach. Many people do this because they're afraid of cholesterol, but they don't realize the hidden danger they're creating. The first mistake is eating only egg whites, especially on an empty stomach. For years, people have been told that the yolk is the bad part of the egg because it contains cholesterol. So they separate it out, toss it in the trash, and convince themselves that by eating only the whites, they're making a healthier choice. But the truth is very different. Egg whites on their own contain a substance called avidin. Avidin binds to a vitamin called biotin, also known as vitamin B7, and blocks your body from absorbing it. Now, why does that matter? Biotin is not just some minor nutrient. It is essential for your nervous system, your skin, and your cognitive function. Without enough biotin, people can begin to feel unusual fatigue, tingling in their hands and feet, muscle weakness, even symptoms that resemble depression or memory loss. For seniors who may already struggle with nerve pain, balance, or cognitive decline, this deficiency can be devastating. Let me share a story. Eleanor Thompson, a 79-year-old woman from Maine, thought she was doing herself a favor by eating only the whites of 2 eggs every morning. She wanted the protein, but feared the cholesterol in the yolk. Over time, she began to notice numbness in her feet. Walking became harder, and eventually she needed a cane just to get around. When we reviewed her diet, the culprit was clear. By throwing away the yolks and eating the whites on an empty stomach, she was essentially starving her nervous system of biotin. Once she returned to eating the whole egg and pairing it with vegetables, her symptoms began to ease. It wasn't an overnight fix, but the difference was real. This is why I always stress, don't fear the yolk. That golden center is not just cholesterol, it's packed with lecithin for brain health, omega-3 fatty acids for heart protection, and powerful antioxidants like lutein and zeaxanthins that help preserve your vision. Seniors who throw away the yolk are throwing away some of the very nutrients that guard against macular degeneration, dementia, and other age-related conditions. And here's another key. When you eat eggs, don't eat them on an empty stomach. Having a slice of whole grain bread, a small salad, or even some steamed vegetables first helps slow digestion, balances stomach acid, and makes nutrient absorption far more efficient. So if you've been tossing yolks in the trash or eating whites alone first thing in the morning, I urge you to rethink that habit. Your nerves, your energy, and your brain will thank you for it. Now let's move to the second mistake: eating raw or undercooked eggs. Some seniors have a lifelong habit of drinking raw eggs with alcohol, or enjoying soft-boiled eggs where the center is still runny. Maybe it's something they saw in movies, or a ritual passed down from family. But here's the harsh reality. Raw eggs carry a high risk of Salmonella infection. When you're young, your body may be able to fight off that bacteria with a strong immune response. But in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, the immune system is no longer what it once was. An infection that might have been uncomfortable in your 20s can become life-threatening in later life. And we're not talking about just a stomachache. Salmonella can lead to severe dehydration, high fever, and in some cases, sepsis, a dangerous infection that spreads through the bloodstream and requires hospitalization. The Centers for Disease Control reports that the majority of Salmonella-related deaths occur in adults over 65. I recall the case of Mark Thompson, an 82-year-old man who prided himself on toughness. For decades, he drank raw eggs mixed with vodka, believing it kept him strong. One day, he was rushed to the intensive care unit with severe sepsis. He survived, but the antibiotics he needed wiped out much of the healthy bacteria in his gut. The aftermath was months of chronic diarrhea, malnutrition, and fatigue. What he thought was a sign of strength had quietly been weakening him all along. And there's more. Raw egg whites keep avidin fully active, meaning they block even more biotin absorption than cooked eggs. That means if you're drinking raw eggs for health, you're not only risking infection, you're also starving your nervous system of a critical vitamin. On top of that, raw egg proteins can bind to beneficial bacteria in your intestines, throwing off the delicate balance of your gut microbiome. And research increasingly shows that this microbiome plays a role not just in immunity, but in brain health, depression, and even diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So what's the safer choice? Always cook your eggs thoroughly. The U.S. Department of Agriculture recommends cooking eggs until both the white and yolk are firm, which usually means boiling for 9 to 12 minutes or frying until no liquid remains. When you buy eggs, check the shells carefully for cracks or stains. Store them in the refrigerator and use them within 2 weeks. And if you see eggs on discount nearing their expiration date, ask yourself, is saving a few cents really worth risking your health? For seniors especially, the answer is no. Fresh, thoroughly cooked eggs are an investment in your safety and longevity. If you've been enjoying soft-boiled eggs with runny centers or sipping raw eggs as part of your morning ritual, now is the time to change. It might feel like a small sacrifice, but it can spare you enormous health troubles down the road. The third mistake is eating eggs together with medications. This is something many seniors overlook because eggs feel so natural, so harmless, that it's hard to imagine they could interfere with a pill. But the truth is that eggs contain nutrients like vitamin K, calcium, and protein that can directly change the way certain medications work inside your body. Take blood thinners, for example, medications like warfarin. These drugs are carefully balanced to keep your blood from clotting too quickly. But the effect of warfarin depends heavily on the amount of vitamin K in your diet. Egg yolks are rich in vitamin K. That means if you suddenly eat more or fewer eggs, the drug's effect can swing in either direction, leaving you at risk for dangerous bleeding, or on the other hand, a blood clot. I once treated Harold Smith, an 85-year-old man who had been stable on blood thinners for years. One week, he began eating 2 boiled eggs with breakfast every day, thinking he was making a healthy choice. Within weeks, his balance shifted. He was rushed to the emergency room with a brain hemorrhage, and it was only later that we traced it back to the change in his egg consumption. What seemed like a simple breakfast choice nearly cost him his life. The same problem occurs with antibiotics. Drugs like tetracycline or quinolone can bind with the calcium, magnesium, or iron found in eggs. Instead of being absorbed, they form a complex that simply passes through the digestive tract unused. This reduces the effectiveness of the drug and delays healing. For seniors fighting infections, that delay can be critical. Iron supplements are another issue. The proteins in egg whites can bind to iron and stop it from being absorbed. For someone struggling with anemia, taking iron pills alongside eggs can mean months of no progress, leaving them weak and fatigued. Dorothy Jones, a 76-year-old patient, kept asking why her anemia wasn't improving. When I looked at her habits, I saw the answer. She was taking her iron tablets with a fried egg sandwich every morning. Once we separated the 2 iron in the morning, eggs at lunch, her iron levels began to climb within weeks. So what's the safe practice? Always separate your medications from your eggs by at least 2 hours. For especially important drugs, wait 4 hours to be safe. and always check with your doctor or pharmacist about possible food interactions. Even thyroid medication, which must be taken on an empty stomach in the morning, can be affected if you eat eggs too soon afterward. Statins for cholesterol and medications for high blood pressure should also be taken apart from eggs. Think of it this way: eggs are food, not medicine. Let them do their work separately so they don't collide. Now, let's turn to the fourth mistake: eating eggs too early in the morning, between 6 and 8 a.m. You might be surprised by this one. After all, isn't breakfast the most important meal of the day? For many people, eggs are the go-to breakfast food. But here's the catch. At this early hour, your body is producing the highest levels of cortisol, a hormone often called the stress hormone. Cortisol naturally rises in the morning to help wake you up, then falls as the day goes on. The problem is that cortisol also raises cholesterol production in the liver. So if you eat eggs at the very same time, you're adding cholesterol from the outside while your body is busy making more on the inside. The result? A sudden surge in cholesterol levels that can be especially harmful for seniors whose cholesterol metabolism is already impaired. I think of Ronald Jones, a 78-year-old man who ate fried eggs at 6 o'clock every single morning for years. He thought he was fueling his day. But one morning, he collapsed with acute myocardial infarction, a severe heart attack. When the doctors checked, his cholesterol was twice the normal level. The timing of his egg consumption had amplified the problem, day after day, until his body finally broke down. There's another reason early morning eggs can be troublesome: digestion. After a night of rest, your digestive system is still waking up, flooding it with heavy protein. First thing can cause indigestion, bloating, or heartburn. Seniors with sensitive stomachs often blame the eggs themselves, but the real problem is the timing. So when is the best time? Research and clinical experience suggest between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. At that point in the day, cholesterol synthesis in the liver is at its lowest. Your digestive system is fully awake, ready to absorb nutrients efficiently, and your liver is most active at processing cholesterol. Eating eggs at this time, especially alongside vegetables like broccoli, spinach, or onions, not only makes digestion smoother, but also helps fiber bind excess cholesterol and flush it out of your system. And here's one more tip: avoid eggs right before bed. Protein digestion demands energy, and eating them late can interfere with sleep and recovery. If you truly need protein in the morning, lighter options like Greek yogurt or tofu may be easier to digest. So I ask you, what time of day do you usually eat your eggs? If it's always been early in the morning, maybe it's time to experiment. Shift that habit, and you might find both your cholesterol numbers and your digestion thanking you for the change. The fifth and final mistake is cooking eggs at high temperatures in oil. Fried eggs may taste delicious, but the method of cooking can quietly rob the egg of its benefits and add risks for your health. Here's why. When eggs are cooked in oil that is too hot, the proteins denature, twisting into shapes that make them harder to digest. For younger people, that might mean nothing more than mild discomfort. But for seniors, whose stomach lining is already more sensitive and whose digestive enzymes are weaker, it can trigger real problems in digestion, irritation, even chronic gastritis. More concerning are the harmful substances produced when oil is overheated beyond its smoke point. Chemicals like aldehydes and acrylamide are released, irritating the stomach and contributing to inflammation and oxidative stress. Over the long term, this repeated exposure can set the stage for bigger problems, from chronic inflammation to damage in the cardiovascular system. High-temperature cooking also destroys one of the egg's most valuable nutrients, choline. Choline is vital for brain health, supporting memory and slowing down cognitive decline. For seniors fighting to preserve mental sharpness, losing choline in every fried egg is like throwing away a tool that could protect the mind. I remember Jane Smith, 84 years old, who loved her morning fried eggs. Over time, she developed persistent gastritis. Her appetite dropped, her weight declined, and her energy disappeared. It wasn't until she switched from frying to boiling that her symptoms improved. Another patient, George Smith, spent decades enjoying fried eggs, but as he aged, heartburn became unbearable. Once he transitioned to boiling his eggs gently in water, not only did the discomfort vanish, but his protein absorption improved too. So what's the alternative? Simple. Boil or steam your eggs over low heat. Place them in cold water, bring it to a gentle boil, then simmer for about 10 minutes. This preserves the protein structure, protects nutrients, and makes digestion easier. Steamed eggs or poached eggs are also excellent, as they use gentle heat without oil. One method I recommend avoiding is the microwave. The uneven, rapid heating severely damages protein, and sometimes even risks the egg exploding. For something as important as your nutrition, patience with gentle cooking always pays off. Adding herbs and spices is another smart approach. Turmeric, parsley, or black pepper not only enhance flavor, but bring anti-inflammatory benefits, especially turmeric with its compound curcumin, which supports both brain and heart health. In this way, your eggs become more than just food. They become functional nourishment tailored for aging well. So there you have it. 5 common mistakes with eggs that can turn a healthy food into a harmful one. Let's quickly recap. First, don't eat only egg whites on an empty stomach. Second, avoid raw or undercooked eggs. Third, don't mix eggs with your medications. Fourth, avoid eating them early in the morning when cortisol peaks. And fifth, don't fry them in high-temperature oil. Follow these 5 principles, and suddenly eggs transform into exactly what they were meant to be: a near-perfect food that supplies protein, vitamin D, selenium, choline, and the B vitamins your body needs in older age. They'll help you maintain muscle mass, protect your immune system, and support healing. I've seen firsthand how these small changes make big differences. At 92, I still live by these rules myself, and I believe they are a big reason why I can continue my work and enjoy a healthy life. Changing habits is never easy, but it doesn't have to happen all at once. Start with one adjustment. Maybe tomorrow, instead of frying, you try boiling. Or instead of eating your eggs first thing in the morning, you move them to lunch with a plate of vegetables. Each small choice builds a stronger foundation for the years ahead. So my question to you is, which of these 5 lessons will you put into practice today? Remember, your health is built not by grand gestures, but by small, consistent choices. If you found this guide useful, make sure to subscribe to the Elder's Guide and share this video with someone you care about. And stay tuned for the next video, where I'll share 5 foods you should absolutely include in your diet to thrive in your golden years. Until then, take care of yourself, make smart choices, and remember you have the power to create a healthier, longer life, one meal at a time.